The Milwaukee Brewers have a superstar emerging, coming out of the bullpen and dominating day in and day out. We're going to be breaking down what reports are saying about Trevor Megill and how his impact on this Brewers team is absolutely insane, as well as some major updates regarding tomorrow's starter, as Jacob Misiorowski may make a surprise return against the Cincinnati Reds. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be breaking it all down here in this video. Before we do jump into it, I want to say a big thank you to all of the new viewers coming in on this Brewers Digest channel. Of course, we had a major surge in yesterday's video, a lot of new viewers, and if this is your first video or second video joining the channel, don't worry, I'm in a bit of a scuffed setup right now, but we're coming back to the studio tomorrow, and I appreciate all your guys' support. And for those who are watching and have not hit the sub button already, be sure to do so. As I mentioned in every video, we have daily Brewers news coming towards you guys, and we know that just over 98% of you guys watching are not subscribed to the channel. But as I mentioned, with all of the stuff coming out, we have an off day today, a rare one in this month, and now for the remainder of the month, we have a lot of games. So we gotta bring out some new news for you guys regarding Trevor Megill. Now, I want to pull up exactly first, kind of starting off every little bit of news that has come out regarding Trevor Megill, and there's reports saying that we have a superstar emerging out of the bullpen, and these reports, I think, are a bit late on this, as Trevor Megill has been absolutely dominant, even down to last year. And I want to pull up what Bleacher Report's Joel Reuter recently highlighted the Brewers closer as the 8th best closer in baseball right now, ranking well above where Devin Williams would have ranked if he were still the Yankees closer. And I think this is just one facet of being able to kind of show how good Trevor Megill is. And obviously, when we're just watching him day in and day out alone, he's been able to close out games, dominate games in there, and even going back as early as last season when he would fill in for Devin Williams, when Devin Williams may have been out for a little while and whatnot, whether it was closing, whether it was coming in, later in the game, wherever Trevor Megill filled in, starting off from last year until right now, this point, and for the foreseeable future, he has become the superstar the Milwaukee Brewers needed. And of course, we've had some phenomenal pitchers in the past, Devin Williams, Josh Hader, and we're going to kind of jump into how this all relates to them as well here in a moment. But I also did want to pull up another quote from Joel Reuter coming here, kind of going over everything that we've seen from Trevor Megill this far. And from Joel Reuter, he said, "The Brewers continue to do a great job passing the torch to the next in-house option at closer, going from Josh Hader to Devin Williams to Trevor Megill, who was a first-time All-Star this year, the towering 6'8" righty." First of all, I just want to say, before we kind of do jump back into this, that's insane. 6'8" a pitcher, he kind of has shades of Randy Johnson. These taller guys throw absolute gas. I think that's also kind of coming in with Jacob Misiorowski. I didn't mean to cut off Joel Reuter there, but going back into that, the 6'8" righty has 49 saves and 55 chances over the past 2 seasons, and he did an excellent job while filling in for the injured Devin Williams during the first half of the 24 season to prove his mettle. And I think that's where a lot of this really sparked from last year, and the confidence the Brewers had in getting rid of Devin Williams. And, Devin Williams right now, still not having the best season with this Yankees team, but going back and kind of showing where everything has gone and how things have kind of progressed to this point, from Josh Hader to Devin Williams to now Trevor Megill, as Joel Reuter mentioned, this team, the pitching staff on this team, the pitching coaches for this team, are doing a very good job at picking out the next superstar that this team needs and also will continue to get over the next few seasons. And we're going to jump into Trevor Megill's contract as well and kind of go over why that's not anything to worry about at this moment in time, but going as well further into kind of Trevor Megill as what he brings to the table. It's been incredible for the Brewers this season. This also comes from this Sports Illustrated article, but he was also dominant last season where Williams missed time. The Brewers wouldn't have traded Hader if they weren't confident in Williams. The same goes for Williams if they wouldn't have traded him if they didn't believe in Megill's ability. And starting from that last year, unfortunately it happens in the MLB and other major sports, but when Devin Williams got hurt, I think that this Brewers team really saw what Trevor Megill would bring as a closer to this team and made that decision to get rid of him, send him to the Yankees, and now use Trevor Megill as the closer. And kind of going back into it, and I'll have his stats up right here as well. These past 2 seasons, a 2.72 ERA last year, a 2.20 this year, just above a 1 whip, but, regardless of what that is, it is phenomenal. And already a career high in 28 saves this year, 21 last year. He's already improved on this year, and he's nearly finished every game that he's been in, all but 4. And, that could happen in any sort of which way, regardless of if he comes in the 8th or whatnot. Situations like that are out of his control and out of the control of a lot of these situations, but it just goes to show how consistent, how good, and how reliable Trevor Megill has been to this team. So I want to know what you guys think about him in the comments below. I feel like everybody gets love on this team, and Trevor McIll does as well, but I think we need to give him another big round of applause for what he's done this far, and, how good he's made this Brewers team, not necessarily by himself, but just adding on top of everybody's, kind of hot streak right now in this hot season from the Brewers. Now, as I mentioned as well, the contract is not going to be a big issue regarding Trevor Megill over the next couple seasons, and as you see here, currently, he avoided arbitration this season, 31 years old. Now, over the next 2 seasons, he will negotiate that salary and will certainly be making over 1.9. But Trevor Megill is going to be worth every penny of that. From what we've seen the past few seasons, from what we got, the beginning of last season through the end, and especially when he was closing games to the last year, proving that he's capable of doing that day in and day out this year, he's going to be making legit money over the next few seasons, and especially as a closer, right now, I would argue probably a top 5 in the MLB. He's going to be jumping up in salary and really being an elite group with the 26 and 27 years coming up, and that new contract going to be upon him. But the Brewers, this is one, we don't really like to pay heavy. Cannot blame them. What we're doing with this team right now with no real heavy paying players in one of the smallest markets in the MLB, they know what they're doing. Pat Murphy and Matt Arnold are absolutely putting this team in, elite territory, legendary territory, and you guys saying they're going to make movies about this 100%. This is absolutely insane, and the fact that Trevor Megill right now, 1.9, and what they're going to be seeing from him over the next few seasons, and we know that he's enjoying this team, I think we're going to find ourselves in very good territory. So let me know what you think about Trevor Megill once again in the comments below and his kind of impact on the team this year. But as I mentioned as well, we have a very big update regarding tomorrow's starter, and at this point right now, we don't know who that is, and on MLB.com, it still is as to be determined for the Brewers' next starter, 5:40 tomorrow. And going into this, of course, taking a look at where this Brewers team is really going to put this direction is going to be interesting, because we know that we're going to have a busy schedule coming up, starting off with the Reds and then the Cubs. Realistically, that's the biggest part of this month. And coming into this right now, we're taking a look at where we currently stand. And Kurt Hogg put this out on Twitter saying, Tobias Meyer is currently warming up in the bullpen. And this was yesterday from their game. And of course, he didn't start, but just before the game, getting some reps in and kind of leading to him potentially being tomorrow's starter. But it currently says to be determined, as you saw there, and Myers is the obvious candidate aside from the fastball man, Jacob Misiorowski. We may see him in Cincinnati. And this is some major news. Of course, he did get struck by a comebacker in the shin. Was a bruised shin, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong there. I can't overly remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that. Nothing affected his arm. It was actually, a perfect timing, I guess we could say, for this, so he could rest, let that arm rest, and we see how it happened on the record. He really hasn't needed to be in this impact, but when it comes to these Cubs games, these Reds games, we're going to need him back in this lineup, and I think this is the perfect time to return. This was the estimated return, was around the beginning of the Cubs series, so going into this and taking a look at what the possibility is obviously a great sign, especially going in from where we were a couple days ago with Jacob Misiorowski and Jackson Chourio, these younger guys that were waiting to get back into this lineup, especially Logan Henderson as well, kind of not mentioning him should be a crime, but the way that these younger pitchers have made them kind of their way into the MLB already, taken over the roles in this league, and already starting to kind of need that rest for their arms. This is the perfect time for both of them to go on the IL, and, there's a lot of questions surrounding, will anybody else be going on for a rest before the postseason? But getting these guys to come back now after a rest, getting them, making sure they're staying healthy, hopefully we get a six-man rotation. I don't hate the idea of that, and going on to a 13-game win streak hopefully tomorrow. I think we're in very, very good shape, and I want to pull this up just before we do finish it off as well, because I want to kind of mention as well the kind of the longer stretch of starters here. So 3 games against the Reds. Now, whether that be Jacob Misiorowski tomorrow, whether that be the 16th, whether it even be the last game against the Reds, it will be interesting to see, because I'm not exactly sure if he's been throwing. I'm sure he's been, taking it a little bit easier, especially with the Brewers and what their kind of mindset is on this as more of a rest for his arm, more so than his shin. Or will he come back at the beginning of the Cubs series, potentially in one of the doubleheader games? I think that's the more likely option. And, I don't hate the rest continuing on for a little bit longer. Of course, Logan Henderson as well, coming back likely against the Cubs at some point, and Jackson Chourio might be out a little bit longer throughout this month, maybe coming back against the Blue Jays. And, this is just kind of my estimate. I don't have any kind of reports covering that, but from what we've seen on the pitching side of things, that seems more likely for Logan Henderson and Jacob Misiorowski. So I will be excited if I see Jacob Misiorowski for this Red Series. If we don't, I'm completely fine with it as well. The more rest, the better for him, especially at this point in the season, already being at his kind of innings limit. So let me know what you think about all of the news here in this video, but that's all I got here. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I just want to say one more time, like I did at the start of the video, I appreciate all of you guys so much here on this channel. You know, talking about this team, how good they've been, having a community to do it is absolutely fantastic. So I appreciate all the support. And if you haven't already, once again, be sure to hit the sub button if you're enjoying the content and want to see your daily Brewers news. But like I said, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.